Good evening. In today's video, we are going to be looking at a potential tropical storm that could develop in the Caribbean and head through the Gulf of Mexico next week, which could be our next named storm, as we've had a lot of models over the past few days start to show a strong storm that could develop in the Caribbean and head through the Gulf and potentially impact the United States. Now look at the current satellite imagery of the Atlantic Ocean. You can see we have a big tropical wave currently that is southeast of Bermuda and northeast of the Lesser Antilles, and this has a 50% chance of development within the next 7 days. That's pretty much all the waves right now we have in the Atlantic, but let's go ahead and take a look at the National Hurricane Center. Here's the 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center. You can see we have a disturbance, not a wave yet, but we do have a disturbance of a 20% chance of cyclone formation in 7 days. It does say a broad area of low pressure could form late this weekend or early next week over the northwestern Caribbean Sea. Thereafter, some slow development of the system is possible through the middle of next week, while it moves slowly to the north or northwest over the northwestern Caribbean Sea in southeastern Gulf of Mexico. Now we're looking at the GFS model. This is just over a week out from now, so things are going to change here. But since we have a lot of these models that are showing the same storm, it is being noticed by the National Hurricane Center and being noticed by meteorologists as possibly our next hurricane. As we head forward throughout the rest of this week, there's not much throughout the rest of this week, but as we get to Sunday or Monday, you can see a low pressure system start to pop up over Central America, and throughout Monday this kind of goes in and out of Central America and the Caribbean. This heads over the Cancun area early Tuesday, and it starts to really wrap up around late Tuesday into Wednesday. This does enter the Gulf of Mexico, and it really starts to look like a storm. So again, this is a week out now that we're looking at, and this is starting to begin to look like a tropical storm, and this could potentially head into somewhere along the Gulf Coast of late next week. Again, this is pretty far out for tropical weather, but there's a chance here the Gulf Coast needs to be alert that another hurricane could be coming for somewhere along the Gulf Coast. As you can see, it gets down to 987 millibars. That's about a category 1 hurricane, and then exits Florida, and that's pretty much too far out there. So as you can see, GFS showing a potential weak category 1 hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico next week. Now look at the European model. This has the same storm, but a lot more westward. It has it in the western Gulf of Mexico as a weak tropical storm, as the European model really doesn't like to overhype in any of these storms tropical wise. Now the CMC model has this as a very strong hurricane, heading a lot more westward into more of the Mobile Bay, Alabama area. So just in between the Euro and the GFS model, but that has a lot stronger than the GFS and the Euro model. So again, some of these models are showing the same storm, but they have definitely big differences on what this storm is going to do. CMC has this storm a lot more eastward in the Caribbean, which gives it a lot more time to develop, as it doesn't have, if it's in that area right here, it's not going to have a lot of land to disrupt that center of the storm. So it's going to protect that center from dry air if it does have that much time to develop. And then once it enters that piping hot Gulf of Mexico, it's going to develop fast. So it depends on where the storm is going to be located, the center of the storm. If it does go over more of Central America in that southern area of Mexico and then heads into the Gulf and moves at a decent pace, it's not going to have that much time to develop. But if it does move slowly and it doesn't have much land interference, this storm could definitely be one of the bigger ones in the Gulf this season. Looking at current ensembles, you can see we have a tropical wave coming off of Africa, it looks like, within the next 10 days or so. And then we do have this storm, which the ensembles have this very sporadic. As you can see, there's not much agreement on these ensembles at all. But we do have a lot that are going into Florida. We have the Florida area, and then we do have some that are heading towards Louisiana, and they do also have a lot that just head westward into Mexico. So not much agreement here, and it's going to take time for some agreement to start showing up. Probably within the next 3 days, we'll start having some agreement on this potential next tropical storm or hurricane that heads into the Gulf of Mexico. As you can see, the Gulf of Mexico is still very hot. Near the coast, it's a little cooler, but this southern Gulf of Mexico, and especially over here in the Caribbean, is still very piping hot waters for these tropical systems. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new, and turn on post notifications. A lot more updates on this potential next hurricane or tropical storm. But as always, I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe.